Bismillah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mwala. Can the co-host please spotlight me, please, so I don't be distracted. After praising the Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and passing salutation upon His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi wa alihi wa sallam, we welcome you in the episode number 12 in the Commandments of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And tonight it is the 7th commandment. And it will be more than one part for it. So this is part 1. And the 7th commandment is related to calling to Allah Azza wa Jal. So it's a da'wah. The da'wah, the call for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. We start with a hadith which is in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet said لمعاذ بن جبل, to Mu'adh ibn Jabal, when he sent him to Yemen. And this in Bukhari and Muslim, and the narration I'm going to narrate is in Bukhari. O Mu'adh, you're going to come to people who are from the people of the book. Let be the first thing that you call them to is to worship Allah. Another narration, to have monotheism regarding Allah. Another narration, to testify that there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone, and that Muhammad is his slave and his messenger. If they are to obey you for that, then let him and tell them, let them to know that Allah had obligated upon them 5 prayers in the day and the night. If they to obey you in that, then inform them that Allah had obligated upon them a sadaqah or a zakah, which will be taken from their rich and will be returned to their poor. If they to obey you in this, then be aware of the most precious of their items, of their money, and fear the supplication of the one who is being oppressed, for verily there is no barrier between his supplication and Allah. This is a great commandment from the first da'iyah, caller for the sake of Allah, that is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is a message to all the ones who call for the sake of Allah. So all those who are da'iyah and making da'wah, they need to benefit from this. And that's why it's a great recommendation and great as well commandment. The first phrase stays that the Prophet of Allah, he said to Mu'adh while he was sending him to Yemen. So he sent Mu'adh to Yemen. He sent him as a caller. Can I just ask the ones who are at the back talking, please? I mean, respect the class, Ikhwani. Just tell them the downstairs. We have to have respect for the class. So he had sent him to be a caller for the sake of Allah. He sent him a teacher, sent him a person who's faqih, sent him even as a governor because he's going to collect zakah. No one is to collect the zakah as if he's a governor or is being employed by a governor. No one is just allowed to go and knock on the doors of the people and ask them for the zakah. So this first statement here, which when the Prophet of Allah sent him to Yemen, sent Mu'adh, that he showed the importance and the necessity of sending callers for the sake of Allah to the land of those people who are not Muslim. Because the land of Yemen, it was the land of the non-Muslims. So it is important to send callers for the sake of Allah to those people in order to show them the path to salvation, to shift them from the darkness of shirk to the light of Tawheed. And secondly, that the Prophet ﷺ, he had taken upon his shoulder the responsibility to call for the sake of Allah, adhering the command of the Almighty Azza wa Jal to him in the Quran, Ya ayyuha rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. O Messenger of Allah, convey what is being revealed to you from your Lord. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And if you did not do so, then you did not fulfill the mission that you were sent for. And this verse is in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 67. And how the Prophet of Allah had fulfilled this, you could see that through the biography of his. When the Prophet of Allah had lost 70 companions, martyrs in the Battle of Uhud, and that was in Shawwal, the year 3 after Hijrah. A tribe called Al-Adal wal-Qara, 2 tribes, have sent to the Prophet ﷺ a messenger to tell him that we want people to teach us the Islam. So they pretended that they want to enter Islam. And they want some of the Prophet ﷺ's companion, teachers, to teach them about Islam. And that was the year 4 after Hijrah in the month of Safar, according to the most authentic of the biography. Between Safar and Shawwal, that's the Battle of Uhud. So you've got Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah, and then Muharram and Safar. So in 4 months, Prophet of Allah was asked by these 2 tribes to send people to teach them about Islam. So remember, at the back of the mind of the Prophet of Allah, there could be a treason or a treachery. But yet the Prophet ﷺ, he knows that the da'wah needs sacrificial. You have to sacrifice, whether it's wealth or even souls, selves. So the Prophet ﷺ, he sent them 10 scholars from the companions. One of them is Asim ibn Thabit, he's the leader. And amongst them Abdullah ibn Tariq, amongst them Zayd ibn Dathina, and amongst them Khubayb ibn Adi. May Allah be pleased with all of them. So they went, and what happened is that these people were tricked. Those tribes, they sent them 200 people to go and surround them. They went to a mountain to protect themselves. I'm going to cut the story short because this is called Ma'satul Raji'. This is the sad event of Al-Raji' in a place called Al-Raji'. And Asim ibn Thabit, he made a supplication after this treachery. He said, "Oh, mighty Allah, I'm here to protect your religion. Oh Lord, convey to your prophet what is taking place. Convey to your prophet what is taking place." He wants somebody somehow to go and convey. There is no Bluetooth, there is no mobiles at that time, to convey the message of what is taking place from this treachery to the Prophet. And it was conveyed. "Oh Lord, just like I'm protecting your religion here, protect my flesh." And Allah protected his flesh. When they asked them to step down from the mountain, they refused. So they showered them with arrows. 8 or 7 of them were killed, martyred. 3 left. Abdullah ibn Tariq, Zayd ibn Dathina, and the 3rd one is Khubayb ibn Adi, whom they have surrendered. And then they surrendered on the terms that we will not do anything to you. But again, they proved to be treacherous. They have dragged them to Mecca in order to kill them for the sake of those people who were killed in the Battle of Uhud as a vendetta, revenge. Asim ibn Thabit, he was one of those companions who had killed a kafir during the Battle of Uhud. So the relatives of this person who's being killed on the hands of Asim, they wanted his skull. Even that wife of that person who's being killed, she wants his skull to drink in it wine. So she wants his head to be cut off and to put wine into it in order for she to drink in it. So Allah Azza wa Jal fulfilled the supplication of his. If you remember, "Oh Lord, just like I'm protecting your religion, today protect my flesh." So he sent a swarm of hornets, the big bees, hornets. And they surrounded the body. They couldn't approach him. They couldn't approach Asim ibn Thabit. And there's a fascinating story regarding Zayd ibn Dathina and Khubayb ibn Adi. That for you as well, when you learn about the Ma'sat al-Raji'. Abdullah ibn Tariq was killed because he refused to go with them, because you know that this is the first sign of treachery. So they killed him, and these 2, they were killed as well for the sake of, as they have killed people in the Battle of Uhud. So those who are the relatives of the ones who are being killed from the kuffar, they've asked for them and they have killed them, in a fascinating story as well. Now, how many the Prophet ﷺ had lost? 70 in the Battle of Uhud, 10 within 4 months, that's 80. Within the same month in Safar, 4 tribes they sent to the Prophet ﷺ. Again, they want people to teach them. Namely, Ri'l, Dhakwan, Usayyah, and Banu Lahyan. 4 tribes. Ri'l, Dhakwan, Usayyah, and Banu Lahyan. Prophet of Allah, he sent them the 70 reciters. 70 qurra, reciters. They were called reciters according to Anas radiallahu anhu. He said, we used to call them reciters because they used to recite the Quran during the night. And then, when they pray the Fajr, they go and they pray, they get some water and fetch some water and put it to the homeless. There were some homeless in a place called the Sufa. It's part of the masjid, but it's not inside the masjid. Homeless. Okay, one of them is Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu. So he used to fetch water and put it for them. Then after that, they go to the market after praying the Fajr. No, they go, to the woods and collect wood. And they get the wood to the market, sell it, and whatever they get as money, they purchase food and then bring it again to the homeless. So they were righteous people, learned people, and very generous people. They are awliya, 70 qurra. Those 70 qurra, when they went there and they approached the area of those tribes, they've sent a messenger from them to the head of theirs, Amir ibn Tufayl al-Dawsi, the kafir man. And what he did, he had betrayed and asked for that person, the messenger, to be killed. As soon as they stabbed him with the spear, he said, Allahu Akbar, fuztu wa rabbil Kaaba. Allahu Akbar, I have won by the Lord, the Almighty Azza wa Jal, the Lord of the Kaaba. Means he won for Jannah. That's what he won. Fuzd. Killing the messenger means declaring war. So they proved again treacherous, these people. So they have killed all of these 70 except for one. This one is Amr ibn Umayyah al-Dhimri radiyallahu anhu. Amr ibn Umayyah al-Dhimri, he is the only one who got away in a fascinating story. Again, it needs a special class for it. He ran away, managed, and he went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he told him about those 70 reciters who were killed. Prophet of Allah would never been saddened and in grief and sorrow more than he was after hearing the news of those 70 or 69 who were killed from the reciters. Because of that, he started making dua qunut in the 5 daily prayers. After the ruku' of the last rak'ah, he would say, Allahumma, loud. The companions said, Allahumma al'an ri'l, Allahumma al'an dhikwan, Allahumma al'an bani lihyan, Allahumma usayyah asatullah wa rasulah. He used to curse these people. And not only that, Anas radiallahu anh conveys for us a Quran which was revealed and then later on was abrogated for the 70 reciters. And the Quran is as follows: بَلِّغُوا عَنَّا قَوْمَنَا. The Quran says, this is verses of Quran, but it was abrogated. بَلِّغُوا عَنَّا قَوْمَنَا. Those 70 reciters saying, or Allah is saying, conveying what they are saying after they were killed. Convey, O Lord, on behalf of us, أَنَّا قَدْ لَقِينَا رَبَّنَا, that we have met our Lord. فَرَضِيَ عَنَّا وَرَضِيَ عَنَّا وَأَرْضَانَا. He is pleased with us and He pleased us. He is pleased with us and He pleased us. That was Quran. But later on was abrogated. So it's not Quran anymore. So Allah revealed verses because of this. Prophet of Allah for 1 month asking for dua against these people. So it shows you that this religion came to us through the body, the blood, and the skulls of those companions. 80 plus 70, 150. Because 17 Uhud, 10 in the Ma'sat al-Raji', and this one is called Bi'r Ma'una, the well of Ma'una. That's where they were killed. And also 70 plus 80 plus plus 10, that's 150. 150 companions in less than 4 months. Why? To call for the sake of Allah. Through their bodies, we have received the religion. Yet we have people who have no common sense and have the audacity to talk about these companions. A'udhu billah. That's why, for us, companions are red line. So the da'wah to Allah Azza wa Jal, it does require sacrificial. Allah Azza wa Jal, He had said to us in Surah Al-Imran, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ. Do you think that Allah will make you to enter paradise? وَلَمَّا يَعْلَمِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا مِنكُمْ وَيَعْلَمَ الصَّابِرِينَ. And yet Allah does not know who is the one who is a real mujahid in sabilillah, a real fighter for the sake of Allah, and the one who's real patient. Allah knows, but He has to test you to know from yourself. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ. Do you think you're going to enter paradise? وَلَمَّا يَأْتِكُمْ مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِن قَبْلِكُمْ. And that the example of those who were before you, مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ. Poverty was imposed upon them, ailment, hardship, وَزُلْزِلُوا. And they were shaken. حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. Until, or to such an extent, that the messenger and those who were with him, they said, مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. When is the victory of Allah? أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. Verily, the victory of Allah, or the help of Allah, is close. Here we find that the Prophet ﷺ sends also only the ones who are knowledgeable. He sends only the ones who are knowledgeable. He does not send anybody else. He sent Mu'adh, and also with him was Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. And then when we talk about him, inshallah, later on as well in a different second part. So he sent with him Mu'adh, and also he sent Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Who's Mu'adh? He's one of the 4 reciters whom the Prophet of Allah said, if you want to take Quran, take from 4. Ubay ibn Ka'b, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and the 4th one, Salim Mawla Hudhayfa. Bismillah. The 4 can take Quran, for these are the Shaykh Qurras. Mu'adh ibn Jabal was a scholar, radiyallahu anhu warda. His Mu'adh is the one, if you remember, one of the commandments we have discussed. If you remember that the Prophet of Allah said to him, Wallahi inni la uhibbuk. By Allah, I love you, Mu'adh. Imagine the Prophet was saying that to you. That means you are in Jannah. If Allah says, I love you, that means you are guaranteed Jannah. Khalas. I love you. طيب. Here we have as well Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, one of those companions whom they used to recite in the masjid, all the wives of the Prophet of Allah, they will be listening. He's got a melody special. It attracts the listener. All the wives will be listening because he's reciting in the masjid. He used to have a flute. As the Prophet of Allah, he heard him once. He said, لَقَدْ أُوتِيَ هَذَا مِزْمَارًا مِنْ مَزَامِيرِ دَاوُدَ. Definitely he's got one of the flutes, the melodies of the melody of Dawood. What's so special about Dawood alayhi salam? Dawood, he was a prophet. Whenever he recites his Zabur, the birds, the mountain, all of them, they sing along with him. That's how beautiful he was. So he's got one of the melodies of Dawood alayhi salam. So that's why when he had heard the Prophet of Allah saying to him, you have got one of the melodies, he said, Messenger of Allah, I didn't know that you were listening. If I knew you were listening, لَحَبَّرْتُ لَكَ تَحْبِيرًا. I wouldn't even made it better melody. I've got another gear, gear 1, gear 2, gear 3. I put a 3rd gear now for you. I didn't know that you were listening. So Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, even Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he let him to lead him in the prayer. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he's one of the 4 reciters. But he made Abu Musa al-Ash'ari to lead him in the prayer. And he wanted to lead him in the prayer. He took off his shoes, Abu Musa. He said, أَمُتَهَوِّكُونَ نَحْنُ يَا أَبَا مُوسَى. Are we going to be following the trend of the Jews? Taking your shoes off? Why? You're taking your shoes off. You don't need to do so. We'll take your shoes off here because of the carpet. We're coming to the masjid. But if you're in a place where there's no carpet or this carpet allows you to have shoes, you don't have to take your shoes off unless you're not comfortable. That's something else. But if you think this is the ibadah, to take your shoes off, and that's why you find the ignorant man, he would say about a person who's praying with his shoes, Wahhabi. But that's actually, he's following the Prophet ﷺ. He's following the companions. But it doesn't mean as well on the other side, which is the extreme, that we must come with our shoes in the masjids. That's not correct as well. That's not read as well, because the masjid is made to be a carpet, so that's why the masjid of the Prophet was pebbles. طيب. Now we find that Prophet of Allah, he sent the scholars because the scholars are basically the element by which the da'wah will be successful. No way the da'wah will be successful except it was through prophets. Okay? And Allah Azza wa Jalla, he said, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرًا. Say, O Muhammad, that this is my path. I make da'wah to Allah upon knowledge, no ignorance. Because ignorant da'wah, it will lead to disaster. One day the companions, some of them, they went to a journey. One of them, he had been hit and wounded in his head, injured. And he had a wet dream. So he wanted to pray his fajr. He knows that the water is cold. He can't heat it up. If he has some ghusl and put some water onto his wounded head, he might, cause a fatal injury or fatal disease, and he might die. So he asked his friends, am I allowed to use dry ablution, tayammum? He said, no, you've got water. So he used the water, listening to their fatwa, and that fatwa is based upon ignorance. So he died. When the Prophet of Allah heard about this, he said, they killed him. May Allah kill them. They killed him because of their fatwa of ignorance. May Allah kill him, kill them. For verily, the cure of the disease is to ask a question. What is the disease here? Ignorance. Ignorance is a disease. And the cure for this disease is to ask a person of knowledge. Ask him. For verily, it was enough for him just to strike his hand with the land and to say, Bismillah, then wipe his face and his hands. And then he will be pure for the sake of his ibadah, his prayer. But because of their ignorance, there's no way you could use water. So he was killed. Radiallahu anhu arda. Now, we find some people trying to champion the ignorance, especially some of the jama'at. Those people who are making da'wah to the sake of Allah, they call it jama'at tabligh or jama'at da'wah. Okay? And they have a bunch of ignorance. They go together to go and teach people about the deen. And if you ask him a simple question regarding the prayer, he doesn't know. They're very good in cooking food, but they're not good in making good deen or religion, passing information. They sit down and they say, Qala Allah, and they don't have the elements, the basic, the foundations, the ABC of the deen to understand it. Okay? It's not correct. If you want to make da'wah, you have to be a person who is knowledgeable. Okay? So if you want to pass the deen, I'm not saying that if somebody asks you a question, I have to go to university and all that. No. I'm just saying, but if you put yourself on a table to teach people, you have knowledge, to stand upon it. But they have some stories, to champion the ignorance. One of these stories they say, you are the person who's da'iyah, which are ignorant. You are like the cloud which got rain. Wherever you go, you shower them with rain. Whereas the scholar, he is a deep well. He's a well, but it's a deep one. What has come to your mind now? Deep well, too hard for you to fetch the water. What is this? A cloud passing, mashallah, giving. I don't think it's giving rain, it's giving disaster. It gives flood of ignorance. Yes, but not the deen. Or another story, as a person who is worshipping Allah on one of these islands, and he's been worshipping for so many years, but his prayer was, he puts his cloak, and then he's got a goat, and he's got a staff. So he says in Arabic, Rabee, anzati wa asati wa abati fataqabbal salati. Sounds rhyme, by the way. And that is my staff, my stick, my cloak, oh Lord, accept my prayer. That is his prayer. Exactly, this is his prayer. Until one day a scholar came on board of a boat, and he reached this island, and he saw him, oh, this is not the right prayer. Oh, teach me. So he told him the right prayer, 5 daily prayers, and ruku' and sujood and all of that. He didn't stay for long. Following day he wanted to go. So he rowed the boat. He's now almost in the middle of the ocean. This guy, he wanted to pray the prayer that's been taught by the scholar. He put his cloak, he put his staff, and he forgot what to do, what to say, what to recite. He came back again to his old prayer. Rabbi asati wa asati wa abati wa anzati taqabbal salati. Oh Lord, my sheep, my goat, and my staff and my cloak, accept my prayer. So he wanted to memorize himself with this prayer that he's been taught. So he started going to the beach, and he told the scholar, please stop. He couldn't hear him. So he started going on top of the sea. This is, by the way, fake story. He started, mashallah, walking on the sea itself until he reached the scholar. He says, scholar, teach me this prayer because I forgot, that prayer that you taught me. So the scholar looked at him and he said, wow, he must be a wali, this guy. He said, go back to your old prayer. The prayer I taught you will never make you walk on top of the water, It will never make you float on the water like this. So this is a story to support what? Ignorance and ignorant people. A'udhu billah. No such stories like this. And as I said, ignorance will lead to disaster all the time. So we know that we have to have a scholar or a person who's learned, not to learn the method of da'wah only, but also to learn the knowledge, which is very important. So the Prophet ﷺ sent them both to make the da'wah successful, and how successful it was. Coming to the first now thing that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, قال إنك ستأتي قوما أهل كتاب. Mu'adh, you're going to come to people who are the people of the book. So he's telling him the situation, the circumstances, the background of those people who are going to call them to the sake of Allah, in order to get ready for them, in order to know that they are not just ignorant people, they are people of knowledge. And the way that you're going to talk to them is different from the way that you talk to the ignorant people, which is like Quraysh and the mushrikeen of Quraysh. These people are not illiterate, people they read and write. So he's telling them that he's telling them that, or telling him and Mu'adh and Abu Musa, that these people need for you to know what you should be preparing for them. Those are people, they have even some knowledge about some of the things that you've got as a Muslim. So those people used to send even rabbis and priests to check upon the Prophet if he's a prophet. Tell us about where is the ruh. Tell us how the baby looks like his father and like his mother. So they used to test the Prophet ﷺ if he's a prophet. The people of the Medina, when the Prophet ﷺ came to Medina, and the outskirts were Jews, people of the book. These people, some of the mushrikeen used to think that if the Jews embrace Islam, that means Islam is correct. If they don't, it means Islam is not correct. That's why the Jews used to embrace in the morning and leave the religion in the evening, to put doubt in the hearts of those who are from the Medina. So their ideas were respected, and their way of life, they were adapted. And that's why the people of Medina used to adapt even the way how to approach their spouses, marital relation. They learned it from those people of the Jews, like sideways. Okay, used to approach them sideways, not one on top of each other. So the people of the book, they were taken as people, as a role model. So the Prophet of Allah said to the companions, make sure you prepare yourself. And the Prophet of Allah, he had said that Yemen is got the people of the book. Why he specified the people of the book? And yet we know in Yemen there were other people who are mushrikeen, idolaters. Because the majority of those who were in Yemen, they are from the Christians. So there are people who can debate you. So there are people of debate. You have to get ready for munadara, debate, and to reason with them in the best of ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in Surah Al-Nahl, Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah. Call to the way of your Lord with hikmah. Hikmah means wisdom. وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ, and good preaching. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, and reason with them, argue with them in the best of ways. ادْعُ إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And also we find here, Allah says in Surah Al-Ankabut, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. Do not reason with the people of the book except with the best of ways. Always argue the best of, except for the ones who are bad, the ones who make dhulm, the ones who they don't want to listen. They don't want to just, to see if where's the haqq and where is the batil. They just want to insult. Those ones, you don't argue with them except with strong, different way of argumentation here. Then the Prophet of Allah, he said to Mu'adh, give them instruction. فَلْيَكُنْ, let be, the first thing you call them to, shahadatu an la ilaha illallah, the testimony, the kalima, to testify there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone, and Muhammad is a messenger, or to monotheism, or to worship Allah. That's the first thing. So the Prophet ﷺ, he guided Mu'adh and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari to start the da'wah with tawheed, to call the people to la ilaha illallah. And this is the same call, and the first thing that all the dua from the prophets and the messengers, they started with. All of them. If we go one by one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-A'raf, He tells us about Nuh alayhi salam, and about Hud, and about Shu'aib. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمٍ. Behold, when we sent Nuh to his people, فَقَالَ يَا قَوْمِ, he said, O people, اعبدوا اللَّهِ, worship Allah, مَا لَكُم مِّن إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ. You have no God, you have no Rabb, no Ilah except for Him. Also Hud alayhi salam, he said the same thing. وَإِلَىٰ عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا. And we have sent to Ad, the one from them, Hud. What did he say to his people? قال يا قوم, he said, O people, اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره. Worship Allah, there's no God for you except for Him. Also, we have Shu'aib. قال وإلى مدين أخاهم شعيبا. And we've sent to Madian their brethren, that means from their tribe, Shu'aib. قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said also to all the prophets, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Surah Al-Nahl. We have sent to every nation a messenger from amongst them. قال, to say to them, اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ, worship Allah alone, and shun the worship of Taghut. Taghut, anything worshipped beside Allah Azza wa Jalla. Idols, idolaters, everything. So that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Muhammad, 13 years in Mecca, calling the people to what? La ilaha illallah. This is the first duty and the first thing that you're going to enter Islam with it. So this is the foundation of your building. If you have no foundation, you have no building. This is the foundation. La ilaha illallah. This aqidah. And this aqidah, if when it came to the companions, after 13 years into the companions, then you find that these companions straight away will follow. They will accept, as we're going to see. This, by the way, you could say synchronization between all the prophets, to start with monotheism, la ilaha illallah, did not come from striving, deducing the right decision. No, no, no. This is from revelation. Allah told them to start with la ilaha illallah. So did not all of them say, what is the best way, to go and call the people? No such thing. That's why we say our deen, it is Rabbani, and also the way to preach it is Rabbani. We cannot just envisage ways. We have to start with Dawat al-Tawheed. If we have started with Dawat al-Tawheed, we will not have any thing except for success. Allah will give us triumph, even amongst us ourselves. And that's why we find even some of the Muslims are against the Muslims. Some of the Muslims are called even Salafis, but they are super diesel Salafi. They call upon the ones who are, keep the meaning, the scholars. Why? Because of this. They're focused upon giving judgment against such and such. But they're not putting the first task of theirs, the task of the prophets, calling the people to la ilaha illallah, to monotheism. So the callers for the sake of Allah, they are the followers of the prophets. And they should follow their path, which is called to the sake of Allah. At-Tawheed, as we said, is the foundation of any building. And Tawheed, when it came to their companion's heart, dunya for them, it became nothing. That's why they sacrificed themselves for the sake of Allah. They let go of their wealth. They went to Abyssinia. 2 hijrah to Abyssinia. And 1 major hijrah to Medina. A 3rd one. They left their homes. You imagine you're going to leave your home, your possessions. You're going to leave everything there behind you, just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Suhaib ibn Sinan, Abu Yahya, radiallahu anhu. When he left everything, he made a fortune. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He revealed a verse because of him. وَمِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِ مَنْ Subhanallah. طيب. من المؤمنين. No, it's not this one. صدق الله. من المؤمنين ما يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله. He had purchased himself. This person, when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet was being told by revelation what happened, that he had given all the money to the people of Quraysh. When they have stopped him, we're not going to let you to take this fortune that you have made in Mecca, just like that. So what do you want? All the money. So you give me all the money, I'll give you, let me go? You know that I've got arrows. I am very good in throwing arrows. I'm the best. I could kill all of you. But if you want the money, take the money. Everything. He took it. So when the Prophet was told about this, he said, Rabee al-bay' ya Aba Yahya. What a profitable transaction you have made, O Suhaib. Profitable transaction. Huh? What he had what? اشترى نفسه. He had purchased himself for the sake of Allah. Prophet ﷺ for 13 years, he had implemented this aqidah in the hearts of the companions. And after that, they are now ready to receive commandments. Halal, haram, do this, don't do this. They're ready now. The halal and haram verses were sent in the Medina. That's why the Prophet of Allah, he didn't find any resentment, any hardship in making the companions to follow the commands of Allah. Leave this, do this, hear and obey, straight away. Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, Sahih Bukhari was narrated, she said that the first thing that was sent down from the Quran was the verses regarding Jannah, hellfire, Jannah, what is in it. So enticing people, encouraging them to Jannah. And also as in for hellfire, warning people. So all of these verses at the beginning is from the Mufassal. Al-Mufassal, the last surahs of the Quran. All of it mentioning Jannah, Nar. And that when the people now, mashallah, were trained, Allah would sent now the verses with halal and haram. She said, if it was the first thing was revealed, don't fornicate, they would have never listened. They would have fornicated. If the first command was from the beginning, before this aqidah as was implemented and endorsed into their hearts, that is, don't drink, they would have drank. Okay, they would have drank alcohol and wine. So that's why she said that if the verses of zina was revealed, they would have said, we will never leave zina. Zina means fornication at all. Same thing with the drink. But they have submitted because they were ready. In Sahih Bukhari, or we'll just go to Sunan Ibn Majah. In Sunan Ibn Majah, on the authority of Jundub bin Abdullah al-Bajali radiallahu anhu, he said, تعلمنا الإيمان, we've learnt the Iman, ثم تعلمنا القرآن, then we learnt the Quran, فازددنا إيمان, we've increased Iman upon Iman, faith upon faith. In Mustadrak al-Hakim, also authentic chain, Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, for verily we have lived for a while, and some of us will have the Iman before the Quran, and the surah will come onto him, and then we learn from this surah the halal of it and the haram of it, the commands of it, the prohibition of it, and what we should as well stop from those verses on doing and stop not doing or not doing. So this is before even they memorize the surah, they would make sure that they will understand it and implement it. After that, the battle started, and Allah willed for the Muslim to engage with the kuffar of Quraysh. Then the estate of Medina was established, and within 8 years, the companions were able to gain back Mecca, which they were expelled from. In 8 years, imagine, they have made a state in Medina in 8 years. Year 8 after Hijrah, Prophet of Allah regained Mecca, which he himself and the companions were exiled from. Why? Because of the barakah of Tawheed. The barakah of what? Tawheed. This is the call of Tawheed. And because of this as well, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were able to establish the Islamic State in their heart before they had established Islamic State on their land. And that's why one of the sayings that Shaykh al-Albani used to say, أقم دولة الإسلام في قلوبكم أو أقيموا دولة الإسلام في قلوبكم تقام لكم على أرضكم. Establish the Islamic State in your heart, in your nafs, في نفوسكم, it will be established on your land. That means before you start asking for a Khalifa and Hakim and a good, make sure that you are yourself a good Khalifa and Hakim in your house. Make sure that your household are abiding by the deen. Then, inshallah, this will grow and grow until it becomes a full state. So don't start with, killing a leader and you yourself, you're not a good leader in your house. Okay? So establish the Islam in your heart, in your land. It will be in your nafs, in your family. Then it will come into your locality, and then it will spread, and so on and so forth. So the life of the companions were turned into aqidah and turned into ibadah. It was turned into manners, and they were tried, and they were patient. And with this patient, they won, because they did not give any preference of this dunya over the akhirah, the hereafter. So these scholars, they have to learn the following principles. The dua, the ones who are making da'wah, they need to implement the following principles. Kalimatul Tawheed, the word of Tawheed, the Tawheed monotheism, is the foundation of uniting the Muslim. Asasul Tawheed al-Kalima. If you want to unite the Muslims upon Tawheed, no unity of the Muslims without the Tawheed Kalima. So then the Prophet ﷺ, he said to Mu'adh, فَإِنْهُمْ أَطَاعُوكَ, if they are to obey you, that is regarding La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, then tell them they have 5 daily prayers in the day and in the night. So after the 2 testimony comes the salah. So as-salah, just like the tawheed is the foundation of the building, the salah is the pillar of the building. So the foundation of the building, which is Islam deen, is what? Tawheed. And the pillars of the building now is what? Salah. As-salah, which is the one that has been imposed upon the Prophet on 7th heaven. All ibadat were imposed in this dunya except for the salah above the 7th heaven. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Observe your salah, especially the Asr prayer. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand to Allah in qunut, submissiveness, in sincerity. Prophet Allah said, رَأْسُ الْأَمْرِ, the head of the matter, Islam, Tawheed, وَعَمُودُهُ الصَّلَاةِ, and the pillars of it is to be the salah, which is the leg, like imagine a camel, the head of it is Tawheed, the legs of it is the salah itself. قال ورأس وذروة سنامه الجهاد, and the highest point of it is jihad. After you establish Tawheed and after you establish the salah properly, then definitely you are able to climb the dhirwah, the hump. So then he said to him, فَإِنْهُمْ أَطَاعُوكَ, if they to obey you regarding the 5 daily prayers, فَأَعْلِمْهُمْ, then tell them that there is a zakah in their money. This is a zakah, a tax money to be levied from their money, to be taken from the rich and to be given to their poor. Zakah is always linked to the salah. In the Quran, more than 80 times. More than 80 times, أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَالزَّكَاةَ وَالزَّكَاةَ وَالزَّكَاةَ. Salah is linked, so zakah is linked, just like the salah is the rights of the Almighty, the zakah is the rights of the people. Okay? So the rights of Allah is the salah. You do the salah to Allah. But the zakah to whom? For the people. So this zakah is actually your link between you and the people. And the salah is the link between you and your Lord. So you have to give the zakah. And the zakah is to be taken from the rich of the Yemenis, who are in Yemen, to be given to their own poor. Can we take it outside? Yes, you could take it outside. Because of some of the interpretation of this as well says, that means the poor, fuqara'ihim, the poor of the Muslims. No problem to take the zakah outside, but if there is a need inside that place, then it has to be for those people. Because it's impossible for those other people outside to know about the situation of that city more than the ones who are inhabitants of the city. So we'll start with the ones which we have taken the zakah from to be given to their own poor people. But it doesn't mean that we can't give it to the outsiders. Then he says, فَإِنْهُمْ أَطَاعُوكَ, if they are to obey you, فَإِيَّاكَ وَكَرَائِمَ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, don't go to the precious money. So the one who collects zakah. So it goes now, the zakah, by the way, the gold and the silver and the banknotes is you to take it out. But as for the cattle and the land, the crops, this is for the governor, the one who's going to employ to collect it. So for example, you will go and count how many sheep you've got, how many cows you've got, how many camels have you got, how much of the barley and how much of the wheat, how much of the raisins and how much of the dates. Those are the zakah money to be collected from. He will count it and he will say to you, pay this, pay the 1/10 or 1/20, depending upon how you irrigate land. Okay, and for 40 sheep, he will take a sheep. So he says now, let's say that this governor had employed someone to go and take this zakah from those people who's got these cattle. He went to the ones who've got 40 sheep. Okay, so he will take from every 40 sheep, 1 sheep. Now those sheep, they vary from one which is smaller, thin, to mashallah, big and chubby with horns. Okay, so you're supposed to take a sheep from those 40 from the average. So don't take the precious one, the one with the ram that costs a lot of money, mashallah, is equivalent to about 3 sheep in the weight wise. That's haram. At the same time, don't go to the little one, which has got nothing. You have to go to the average. But the Prophet is warned, don't go to the best of theirs, the best camel they've got out of the 5 camels of every, for example, 70 camels, there's a camel, every 5 camel there's a sheep, and this is into the zakah calculations. But if you have camels from 20 camels, 25 camels, 25 camels, you have a camel, which camel you take? Those governors who employ people, sometimes they exploit the situation and you abuse the system by saying that if you give me a hadiyah, I'll try to take the small sheep. If you don't give me a hadiyah, he will take the what? The biggest sheep. And that's why he employed one, Prophet ﷺ, Ibn al-Lutbiyah, he says. He employed him to go and collect zakah. He came back and he said, this is for you, it means for the Prophet of Allah and the budget, Islamic treasury, and this is being given for me as a gift. This is for you, this is for me. Prophet of Allah ascended the pulpit and telling the people, why is it we send people to go and collect zakah, and then he said, this is for me and this is for you. Well, let him stay in the house of his mother and let's see if he's going to have anything from that. Let him sit in his house of his mother and see that these gifts are going to give to him. Let's me. They gave him the gift. Why? They keep a closed eye. Don't take the good sheep. Take a smaller sheep. They give him a gift. You understand me? So this is rishwa, bribe, haram. Take you to hellfire. Al-Rashi wal-Murtashi fi nar. Allah curse them both. The one who they give the rishwa, the bribe, and the one who accepts it as well. Subhanallah. So this is why he says to the Prophet ﷺ, don't take the precious money. This is like dhulm. Then he says, ittaqi da'wat al-madlum. Be aware of the supplication of the one who is being wronged by you. Oh, be careful. فَإِنَّهُ لَيْسَ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ حِجَابٌ. There is no barrier between it and Allah, even if he's a kafir, a disbeliever, a non-Muslim. You wronged him, he makes dua to whoever he is. I want my right back. Allah will give him that. Allah will fulfill his supplication. Because it's a madloom. And any ummah, any nation which has dhulm in it, it will not be prospering. No way. It will be doomed. Regardless. Even Allah will give victory to an ummah, even if it's a disbeliever ummah, as long as it is what? Just. If they have got just and justice, and they are giving the people who are wronged their rights, Allah will make them to prosper. That's why one day, one of the companions called Uqba ibn Amr, he said a hadith. And then the one who was listening as well there was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So Uqba, he said, لا تقوم قال رسول الله Prophet he said, ساعة, I will not come until the Romes are Christians, will be the most prevailing, the ones who are running the show, this nation. He said, أفسر ما تقول. He said, what were you saying? He said, well, I've heard this from the Prophet of Allah. He said, if it is the case, then, and then he mentioned those good characteristics and advantages that those people carry. And that's why Allah made them to what? To be the biggest nation at that time. He said, قال لأنهم أنفعهم لمسكين. They are the best to the poor person. There's a poor person, they'll give him. Now these people are seeking, political asylum. I've seen them. Political asylum. Most of them are from Muslim countries. Most of them are Muslims. Now what do they? They give them, rooms in hotels, like Holiday Inn. I've seen them there. Holiday Inn. They give them food. Give them a car. Okay? And then they look into their cases. They take the time. But I'm asking, if it's in our Muslim country, what do they do to them? You tell me. Would the government give them hotels? They will chase them up and send them wherever you go. There's no such thing to seek political asylum in our Muslim countries. No way. You can't. It's wrong. You're running away from them. You don't run to them. Allah al-Musta'an. The people will give you food, but not the government. People look after you, yes. They don't really, for example, they don't have that. These people, they look after you. Until you see papers and everything. And after that, you start biting them. SubhanAllah. They're giving you food, they're giving you shelter, they're giving you all of that. What do you want? What do you more? Wife? Bring your wife as well? Allah al-Musta'an. I see them because they come to our masjid, because the hotel is Holiday Inn, not far away from our masjid. And I go to the masjid in the Fajr. They come, some of them, in the bicycles. And all of these bicycles are illegal. As in, they don't have lights, they don't have reflectors. One of them stopped. Brother, Assalamu alaikum, brother. Can you just put something I could see you? I can't see him when I'm coming from the Fajr. I can't see with my own eyes. A black bicycle. This guy is, come from a country where he never had any helmets, nothing. So he's got no reflectors, no lights. Anybody can kill him. He said, yeah, sorry, brother. Alhamdulillah. So I'm just saying, this is number one. And fa'ul miskin. وَأَنصَرُهُمْ لِمَظْلُومٍ. They will try to take the right, in general, this is in general, the right of a person who is wrong, okay, and give it to them. So he's been wrong, they will take justice for him. Even he is not from the same religion or from the same country or from the same race. They will give him that. وَأَنْفَعُهُمْ لِمَظْلُومٍ. So when being wrong, أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِمَظْلُومٍ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِمِسْكِينٍ and أَسْرَعُهُمْ كَرَّ بَعْدَ فَرَّ. And after they fled in a battle, straight away they get back. They were beaten and defeated by the Persians at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And then 7 years, this empire, the Rome, defeated the Persians. غُلِبَتِ الرُّومِ في أدنى الأرض وهم من بعد غلبهم سيغلبون. Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He sent to the Prophet of Allah that the Romans were defeated, they were sad. Companions were sad because the people of book, who the one won? The winners? Persians, Magians, fire worshippers. But Allah gave them the glad tidings. Don't worry, those will be having what? The defeat over them later on. In 7 years, this empire, it's called an empire. I'm not talking about country. Empire had the Byzantine Empire had actually overcome and defeated the people who are the Persians. طيب. This is a warning against the supplication of the Mazlum. Don't dhulm somebody, make dhulm upon him, because his supplication, if it's not been fulfilled in this dunya, he will be so fulfilled for him in the hereafter, and it would be even maybe given something better in this dunya. So his supplication is held upon on top of the cloud, and Allah will talk to that supplication. لَأَنْصُرَنَّكِ وَلَوْ بَعْدَ حِينٍ. I will give you help. I will fulfill you, O supplication, even if it's not now, after a while. So it's there. Either he will be fulfilled and he will be doomed, or he will give you something better in exchange, or in the hereafter there will be justice there. So be careful. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى لي ولكم الثبات على دينه وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. If you have any questions, please go ahead. جزاكم الله خيرا. And I had to leave before the 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock means more road works. Okay, more road works. Now, تفضل.
If you join the salah, let's say you pray dhuhr in another masjid.
You prayed dhuhr in another masjid.
And you came to another masjid.
You came to another masjid.
You were praying dhuhr.
Yeah.
So you made intention. Okay, I'm going to join in a sunnah.
Yes.
Right. Let's say you join in the second rakah.
Yep.
After the imam finished, do you continue or you can just finish?
Yeah. So any person who had made a prayer in a particular masjid, let's say dhuhr, and he came to another masjid and they made the dhuhr, he must, if he's still in the masjid, he must pray with them or go out. He can't sit down and, at the back, because people, they don't know if he prayed before or not. And this happened at the time of the Prophet. And one prayed at his house, and then he came to the Fajr, and he did not pray. Prophet Allah said to him, Anta Muslim, are you Muslim? He thought he's not a Muslim, that's why he's not praying. I'm a Muslim, Messenger. Why didn't you pray? He said, I prayed at home, Messenger. He said, well, don't do this. If you prayed at home, you come and pray and make it nafilah, voluntary. I'm going to come to you and answer the question. Also in the Asr prayer, that answers your question. Asr prayer. These two guys, he just came to the masjid and they did not pray with the Prophet of Allah. So after the prayer is finished, he called for them. They came and shaking, scared. What happened? He said, why didn't you pray with us? Messenger, I prayed at home. And we came here, so we thought we can't really repeat the prayer. He said, don't do that. If you prayed at home, come and then pray with the people and udduha nafila and make it as a voluntary. Now, they're going to be praying the Asr, the 4 rak'ah. You're asking if this person came in any rak'ah, first, second, third rak'ah, fourth rak'ah. What does he pray? He prays the prayer of the Imam. He prays the prayer of the Imam. Okay, the 4 rak'ah. And no problem to pray the 4 rak'ah of the Imam. Okay? Now. Jazakallah khair. Anybody else? Fadal.
What exactly is that
Dhulm? Dhulm. What is exactly dhulm? Dhulm is of 3 types. One of them is dhulm to yourself, which is the sin. Dhulm to other people when you rob them, and when you hit them, when you confiscate their money. And dhulm to Allah as well. So dhulm to your nafs, dhulm to Allah, and dhulm to Allah, shirk. So, which is the greatest of all dhulm. So the dhulm is all 3 types. But here the dhulm that the Prophet is talking about is the dhulm to the people. And the Prophet said, Ad-dawawinu thalatha. 3 rakahs on the day of resurrection. 1, Allah will overlook it. Okay? When 1, Allah will not overlook it. Allah will not forgive it. So 1, Allah will forgive it, which is your sins, your dhulm to yourself. As for the dhulm of Allah, which is the shirk, He will not forgive it. And Allah, the 3rd one, which the one He will not touch it, which is the dhulm between you and the other person. It's got nothing to do. Allah will said, you settle your account with him. But if you, for example, let's say, taken money from somebody, and that person, he wanted his money back, and the time is due, but he didn't have money to give him back. On the day of resurrection, even though that he wants his money back, as in now hasanat, no currency, no pounds now, hasanat, Allah will pay on your behalf. Allah will save you because you had the intention in your side yourself. So the dhulm we're talking about here, the dhulm of the other people. Now.
So if somebody say to you, like if you shout at somebody for this, and they're saying, "Oh, you've oppressed me," is that oppression?
That sounds English law, you know what I mean? You know, that sounds English law. It's not Islamic. Akhi, you addressed me. So what? I'm going to take compensation. That's the English law. This is not Islamic. Muslim tolerate with each other. Okay, I'm sorry, brother. I've shouted. Khalas. If he's not happy, it's up to him. I've said my apologies. On the day of resurrection, you're going to get nothing. He will be regretting that he did not forgive you, because forgiving you, he will be what? More rewardable. Al-Afu and al-Maqdira.
Some brothers, they use it a lot. Like if you cut them up or in the road or something, they just say, "Oh, you oppress me." You know what I'm saying? So.
And as I said, these people hasn't been brought up in a Muslim land. But you're talking about particular situations. Let's not personalize issues, please. Because that person, maybe he's listening to you now and he knows who you are. Now.
You mentioned that the hadith that the one giving the bribe and the one receiving the bribe.
لعن الله الراشي والمرتشي. May Allah curse both of them.
Is that in regard to specifically the zakat or any bribe?
Any bribe. Bribe is not a tip, ya ikhwani. The tip is different. The bribe, دفع مال لإحقاق باطل أو إبطال حق, is to pay money in order to make حق باطل or باطل حق. This is the money. This is the bribe. Money or a gift, whatever. Now, you've asked. Tafadhal. Can I ask for this window to be closed? Because I think getting a cold breeze, isn't it? Yeah, just a now. That one is okay. For oxygen, please. So if you are coming to a masjid and the jama'ah is being prayed, can we make another jama'ah? This is a controversial issue. Well, when I say controversial, I'm not saying to you, go to the market of fatwa and choose whatever fatwa you like and suitable to you. But I'm just saying it's controversial. So I might tell you an answer, you might hear another answer. But I'm going to give you the answer with the proof, and then it's up to you to take or not. For verily, the imams, in terms of imam-wise, Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, all of them, they prohibit making a second jama'ah in a masjid. In a masjid, after the jama'ah has been done. In any other place, no problem. The reason behind this, because of the jama'ah, it will be split. The jama'ah, it will be little. The jama'ah will be having some sort of clashes later on. I'll give you an example. That a person whom his voice is nice, and it's Maghrib prayer, and this imam is not as nice, so he delay himself deliberately in order to come after the prayer and then lead other people. Ooh, what a nice voice he got. Let's try to employ him in this masjid and chuck that imam out. Whatever. So this person is deliberately. Some of the jama'at, you'll find the second or the third jama'ah after the first jama'ah, the main jama'ah is more than the first jama'ah. Why is that? And also it gives the lazy person an excuse to say, brother, come to the jama'ah. So, no problem, I'm going to come to the 50th jama'ah, brother. And I'm saying the 50th, I am not joking. In Amman, in a masjid called Masjid al-Malik Abdullah, it's in the heart of the town. It's a big masjid. Between Dhuhr and Asr, non-stopping jama'ah. Non-stop. And I'm saying 50, this is a normal number. So it's a long time. More than 50. I have seen people as well, you are about to come, wallah, me myself, I used to come in that masjid. I came to join the last tashahhud of the imam who is in the main jama'ah. This person, as soon as I wanted to come, Sheikh, we're going to make a jama'ah. Just wait for him to finish. He's stopping me to lead this jama'ah. Do you understand me? Sheikh, stop. They're going to finish. I don't want to argue because I'm going to lose now. So I started making jama'ah, alhamdulillah, finished. Then I finished. These guys, they started their own jama'ah. And then in that masjid is big and huge. You'll find one jama'ah on this side. On the other side there's another jama'ah. By the way, between these two places, and in this masjid, you know how tall it is, how long it is? It's even That's nothing compared. It's even twice the size. So you got another jama'ah here and a jama'ah there. Wallahi. So you could, when you look at this, you say, definitely, what type of jama'ah is this after the jama'ah? And we have hadiths from the Prophet ﷺ and from the companion Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. First of all, when the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he said, the most heaviest prayer upon the hypocrites, أثقل الصلاة المنافقين, the Isha prayer and the Fajr prayer. And I'm about to make the prayer to be established and take some people with me to the houses of those people who did not come to the Jama'ah and burn the houses down. Now he said they don't come to they did not come to Jama'ah. Which Jama'ah? If you said there's a Jama'ah after the Jama'ah, you're gonna knock on the door. Why didn't you come to the Jama'ah? I'm gonna burn your house down. Messenger, I'm waiting for the 45th Jama'ah, inshallah. There will be no functioning for this hadith. There's a Jama'ah, Messenger. He's in non-stop, alhamdulillah. So he's talking about the what? The main Jama'ah. Definitely, the main Jama'ah. Otherwise, there will be no functioning for this hadith. That's number one. Number two, the Prophet ﷺ in his masjid, companions never ever made Jama'ah, except for this one, which Imam Ahmad depends upon, and those who support this thought, which is Hadith Sahih. That a man came after the prayer of ﷺ is finished. It's only one thing, one incident. Imagine the 23 of the Prophet's time. Imagine that some of them is like about at least 30 years of prayer. Only one incident. One person comes in and he finds the Jama'ah is finished. So the Prophet of Allah, he's seen him. He said, أَلَا مِن رَجُلٍ يَتَصَدَّقُ عَلَى هَذَا. And I'm quoting the words, word for word. Isn't it me a man to go and make what? Sadaqah on this person. So the person who stood up in the narration in Sunan Bayhaqi, which is not authentic, but we could use it, is Abu Bakr, one man. If there is a good in this Jama'ah, want to be a more companion to stand up and make Jama'ah with him. And he said, يَتَصَدَّق, to make charity. Who's the one who makes charity? The one rich or the poor? The rich. Who is the rich in this case? The one who prayed the what? The first Jama'ah. He's going to make sadaqah on this person who is not rich, who just hasn't lost the Jama'ah. He's going to lead him. So Abu Bakr led him in the prayer. He's praying obligatory and he's praying voluntary. Okay, so he led them in the prayer. So he made sadaqah onto him. We didn't find anything apart from this incident. Then also on top of that, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, the Prophet himself, in the hadith which is authentic about Shaykh al-Albani, he came to the masjid when after the prayer is finished, because he was busy going to the tribes. He found them, Abdul Rahman Auf was leading the prayer, and he went to his wives and he made Jama'ah with them. He could have prayed in the masjid, and other people would come to the masjid. But he did not. He prayed in his house with his wives. He did not make another Jama'ah in the masjid. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu ardah also. And that is why you find Imam Shafi'i said, if a person came to the masjid and he intended to come to the Jama'ah and he found the Jama'ah is finished, he's got the same ajr of the Jama'ah. Who said that? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Shafi'i is quoted. And I dislike for him, it's like he's haram. وَأَكْرَهُ لَهُ, to make another Jama'ah. Why? Because he will split the main Jama'ah. He'll split it. He'll make more than Jama'ah. And the people start being reluctant now to come to the first Jama'ah. I'm going to come to the second, the third, and the fourth. So that there's no such thing unless it is a limited case. Like people who are a group of travelers. They came to a masjid, which is Hadith Anas radiallahu anhu. Masjid Bani Rifa'a. He came to a masjid. The masjid is finished the prayer. So they waited for the people to go and they made themselves a corner and they prayed Jama'ah. That's no problem. Because when a person comes in, he will know that this is different faces, travelers, and they are in their own. No problem about this. We are with this. But you as the locals who come to the masjid, every time you're late, you make another Jama'ah. Imagine I've got a class now. I've got a class in Masjid al-Malik Abdullah and I've got 50 Jama'ah. Would I be able to teach you guys? Imagine. Jama'ah after Jama'ah. Alhamdulillah, Ya Rabbil Alamin, Alhamdulillah. They really disturb you. Alhamdulillah, in your masjid here, we don't have this. But when I teach, for example, in masjid, in Gatton Road Masjid, this guy he likes his voice. Oh, loud from the back. So I said, look, either I'm going to lower my voice or he's going to be quiet. Which one of the two? And I have to wait. I have to wait. I'll stop my class until he finishes. And then they'll be embarrassed to start another prayer like that. Khwani, if you come to a masjid which is late, either go home or you pray on your own, but in a corner. Do you know what a corner? So the person cannot find anybody. Because one day I came to the masjid and I was late and I went to a place with a corner. And I said, Wallahi. And I said, Ameen. 3-4 people already behind me without me knowing. So I did like this. Meaning what? I am not in a jama'ah. They didn't listen. So I started playing really low now. They can't hear a word I'm saying. Then they realized they started praying on their own. I'm starting on. So we go to a corner. So I came down just now after the prayer. When I went to that corner, nobody come to my right. Because I can read I was doing my Maghrib prayer. Okay, so I just cornered and nobody come to me. In case somebody gonna line up. Because people, they just find somebody, even in the wudu area. Brother, Sheikh did not pray. Brother, did not pray. Huh? So he's already lining up with your jama'ah from downstairs, from the wudu area. Allah al-Musta'an. This is an answer for you, as I said. But as I said, you'll find, for example, other scholars who adopt the other thing. I take the other scholars, or the scholars who are saying it's not correct to make another jama'ah. And we have to appreciate as well, the masjid law is here. The masjid rules as well. They've asked a question. Fadal.
Sheikh, if someone had made his money from haram,
Made his money from haram.
and he wanted to, how can he use that money to invest in a halal business and use that halal business to feed
So if he had made his money haram, I mean like he gambled, something.
gamble?
Okay, and then he became a Muslim, or he was a Muslim?
No, he was Muslim at the time.
No, he can't use that money. He has to purify himself from that money. That money is haram. You have to put it in toilets and for the masjid or something like this. I can't use that haram money. طيب, let's go to Yahya from here. Yalla Yahya. Salam.
So, for example, if somebody wrongs you, like they oppress you, and then you decide not to forgive, you decide to forgive them, can you still take your haq back on the day of judgment?
No, if you've forgiven them, it's too late now. But it's better for you. Better for you to forgive them. Inshallah, Allah will give you better life. Okay? أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ? Would you like Allah to forgive you? So forgive other people. Fast question. Anybody from here? Fadal, Siraj, Al-Wahaj.
There's an hadith that says the one that is a country that's leaded by a woman will never be successful. What's the meaning of the success in the hadith?
The hadith which is Sahih Bukhari, that hadith Abi Bakr, that the Prophet ﷺ said, ما أفلح قوم ولو أمرهم امرأة. People will never be successful if they give their leadership, they gave their fate into the hands of a leader, of a woman. So the woman is to lead them. So what is that? What does he want to know?
What's the source? What do you mean by success? Because
Source?
the sources of the country. I mean, how are they not successful?
They're not successful. This is hadith Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. When the conflict took between Aisha and Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he saw some of the people going with Aisha radiallahu anha, and she's the mothers of the believers, he said, nothing had helped me, benefited me more than what the Prophet of Allah benefited me with this hadith, which I've heard, that ma afla, people will never be successful if they're going to have their leader as a woman. And she was Aisha, the leader. And Aisha, you can't find a better woman than her. Okay, radiallahu anha. But yet, she's not supposed to lead. So, she's not supposed to be, for example, a counselor. Because she's going to meet men. Men are going to come to her on her own. Okay? And she kind of start joking with them and don't know, it's not fit. She's going to be a judge. Judge is going to be secret things between the people. She's going to be knowing things which are, women are shy of. That's in Islam, ikhwani. I'm talking about Islam. In this era now, anything can happen. I'm talking about Islamically. So she cannot be a counselor. She cannot be a judge. She cannot be a member of parliament, Islamic member of parliament, because the ones who are supposed. That's why we don't have prophetesses. You know, what's a prophetess? A woman who's a prophet. Prophets, all of them what? A men. Allah sends men. It's not because He gives favorism to the men. No. If you think about it, it's actually no. Because if you're giving the prophethood to a man, that means it's a big task. A big task. And the women cannot take this. Women are soft, nice. They don't really have this toughness. They don't accept this foul language. They're really shy. They're not made for this. When we say that they should not be leaders, not putting them put them in the right place. That's what it is. To put them in the right place. Because to have such a responsibility, it needs also on top of your being your gender, is as well your physical ability, your emotional ability. All of that has to be there. Okay? Women are like glasses, they're vessels, easy to be scratched. Okay? This is not supposed to be for them. Imagine a woman being a wrestler, that's not fit for her. A woman who's a boxer, that's not fit for her, ikhwani. Women just putting her muscles in. I mean, she could do whatever she likes in this country, but I'm just saying, I mean, I want to land on something soft. I don't want a woman with muscles. Allah al-Musta'an. With respect to whatever he's this person, take it, Once somebody sent me a clip, and this sister, mashallah, got niqabi, I think, or something. She was making the 60 degrees, and she was, I'll be scared of it. No problem, the sister, that she learns to defend herself. But not to such an extreme. Yalla ya Abu Yusuf. Have any questions here? Yalla Abu Yusuf.
Regarding the abrogated verses, were they Meccan surahs, Medina, and how many of them were there?
Allahu A'lam how many were they, but there are plenty of them. Not plenty, the number of them. One of them is the ayah, which is Al-Shaykh wa Shaykhatu, the one which is old and female, Az-Zaniya, the ones who fornicate. Then Farjumuhuma, make rajam. And Umar Khattab, he said, I don't want anybody to come after me to say that there is no rajam, stoning to death to those people, because there were verses revealed regarding this issue. They've been abrogated verse-wise, but not judgment-wise, not hukum-wise, rule-wise. Allahu A'lam, but you could go to the Quran, Ulum al-Quran, and they will tell you how many verses there were. But Allah Azza wa Jalla said, مَا نَنْسَخْ مِنْ آيَةٍ أَوْ نُنْسِهَا نأتي بخير منها نأتي بمثلها أو بخير منها. Either will bring something like it or better than this verse. نعم. الله أعلم. جزاك الله خير. تفضل يا أحمد.
جزاك الله خير Sheikh. There's a sister on the chat asking if a divorced woman wants to travel, can her 13-year-old son be her mahram, who is an adult, he's reached puberty?
Of course he can. By the way, I've asked you to spotlight me. You just did that just now.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry, Sheikh.
Okay, no problem. Khair, inshallah.
There were some guests here.
All right, but you could have just put that number one task for you. Anybody questions from here? I'm going to give you the last question for you. Khalas, tafadhal.
Sheikh, with regards to back again to bribes, because I'm just trying to understand the situation. If there's certain countries when you're driving or whatever, you might be pulled over by police and they pressure you to.
So you are in a country. I could name the country if you wish as well. That they might push you, because the police, to give them something other, they will give you a fine, and you don't deserve that fine, or you can't pass until you give them that. That's not a bribe from your side. It's a bribe from his side. Okay, it's a bribe from his side, because you have no power to change. He's saying to you, you can't pass, and you're allowed to pass unless you give me something. These people, Allah al-Musta'an. So such countries are corrupted. When you have something like this, corrupted country, corrupted system, and they are bound to later on to be doomed because it's corruption. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى لي لكم الثبات على دين جزاكم الله خيرا وأحسن الله بارك الله فيكم. عارف أي دولة بقصد دول؟